Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 357 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey Seth, doing well, recovering from a Thanksgiving Day weekend. How are you doing?
I am also recovering, but it was a good holiday weekend. Got to catch up with some family and stuff, so it was super nice. But we're not here to talk Thanksgiving. We're here to do a podcast. And before we do, we got another co-hosting, Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you today?
Morning, Seth. Also kind of recovering from the same weekend, so.
So anyway, today we got a couple of interesting topics. By surprise today, we got some Unfinity spoilers. The new Unset doesn't come out until April Fool's, so we're like 5 months away, 4 months away, some pretty long time. But we got an article from Mike Rosewater. We got some spoiler cards in it, and it's kind of interesting compared to past Unsets. So we're going to start with that. We also want to talk a bit about the modern ban list. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and whether some cards could maybe come off the ban list now that we have Modern Horizons 2 in such a powerful format. So we're going to talk about that and then answer some fish mail questions. So that's the plan for today. But before we jump into it, a reminder that our show today is brought to you by Card Conduit. And Card Conduit, you've probably heard about them from us before. They are a great way to sell your Magic collection, and they're offering a new service that's geared towards selling smaller batches of valuable cards with a reduced service fee. With their curated shipment service, you can sell your cards for the best available buy list price with only a 5% fee. And just like all of Card Conduit services, with a curated shipment service, you don't gotta sort your cards or grade your cards, none of those hassles. You can just safely package everything up and ship it out, and you'll get a detailed report with all the results. You can check out Card Conduit's curated shipment option as a way to buy list up to 150 cards with fast processing, optimized prices, and the low service fee of just 5%. And you can even get another 10% off by going to cardconduit.com/goldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Unfinity. So Richard, we got this early spoiler today. What did we find out about our newest Unset?
All right, so like you said, April Fools of 2022, so quite a ways out. This new Unset is dropping, and they've done away with silver border. They've decided that there will be cards in the set that will be Eternal Legal, so that'll be Commander, Legacy, Vintage, and then there will be what we traditionally know as silver bordered, except now they're Acorn Cards. And the way you tell what's legal and not legal in the formats is the holofoil stamp, like the little stamp at the bottom for mythics and rares, will be an acorn if the card is silver bordered. And it will be a normal little holofoil thing if it's eternal. So that's the new gimmick they have. In addition, they have 10 full art basics. They have planetary space lands. They have orbital space lands. And then they have borderless shock lands, all 10 as well. So that's coming. So let's get into the cards. We have 5 cards that they talked about today, or they revealed. But we'll start with the Acorn card, so we'll get them out of the way quick. Assembled Ensemble, 4 generic, 1 white, so 5 mana value, star 6, artifact creature, clown, robot, bard, vigilance. Its power is equal to the number of robots you control. Whenever you cast a spell with an artifact creature in its art, create a 1/1 white clown robot artifact creature token. So it references art in Oracle text.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
excited to play silver border now?
I guess. I mean, it's not an especially funny card. Like, I guess clowns are kind of funny or scary depending on your opinion of clowns, but I don't know, whatever. Like, it's very close to a card that you could print in silver border. Like, I guess you can't by the rules reference things in the art that just wouldn't work, because how do you know what is an artifact creature in the art? There'd be some debate in some legacy tournament somewhere whether, you know, this actually is an artifact creature, whether it's something else in the artwork. So I get why it doesn't work, but you could just say whenever you cast an artifact, you know, spell, artifact creature spell, make a token, and that would have been a perfectly fine black border card.
There's so many types. What? I'm still like trying to like comprehend that we have clown robot.
It's time you can make a clown deck now.
I mean,
tribal.
unfortunately, I can't, so you can't play with the Acorn
No,
cards.
Acorn is silver border. So if your commander group allows you to play silver bordered cards, then yes, you can play it. But so the funny thing is, remember last time we had a silver border set and rules committee is like for 1 week you're allowed to play silver border cards. I don't know if Wizards strong armed them to do that this time or not.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Next card, Killer Cosplay, a single green. It's a mythic equipment. When Killer Cosplay becomes attached to a creature, choose a creature card name with an identical mana cost. That creature becomes a copy of the card with the chosen name until Killer Cosplay becomes unattached from it. Equip 3.
I love this card.
The artwork on this is amazing.
This card's so sweet. I mean, obviously it's not legal. It's like a game of like mental magic or something because it rewards you for knowing the name and mana cost of as many cards as possible. Because the more cards you know, along with their mana cost, the more options you have of what you can turn this into. I don't know. I haven't really thought in depth about what like combos would exist for. I'm sure there are some sort of combo, and I could definitely see why they wouldn't want it to be black border, but it is a really neat design.
This card's so
I mean,
broken.
I just love it.
You can just turn your creature into any creature in like the history of Magic, right? For 4 mana. 3 mana, you can just move it around.
Also, I don't know if you realized, if you look closely at the art, it's a grizzly bear that is cosplaying a Tarmogoyf because they both have the same mana cost.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a
Tarmogoyf. I mean, that's interesting.
What? I thought that was just like an alien's like tracksuit or something that.
It's a Tarmogoyf. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a Goyf.
All right, the last Acorn card, which is the Buy a Box promo, which is not marked as an Acorn card in the original WotC art that they released, but Morrow confirmed it's an Acorn card. Okay, so it is an Acorn card. Water Gun Balloon Game, 2 generic mana, artifact, rare. When it enters the battlefield, each player puts a pop counter on 0. When a player casts a spell, move that player's pop counter up by 1. When a player's pop counter hits 5, that player creates a 5/5 pink giant teddy bear creature token and resets all pop counters to 0.
So why could this not
Acorn?
be legal?
Hold on.
So it's not an Acorn as far as art, but apparently it is an Acorn according to WotC, which, oh my god. I could go on a little bit of a rant about this system, which I think is absolutely horrible for separating the legality of these cards. But what makes this card not safe for black border? Like, I don't really...
The teddy bear is
understand.
pink. Pink is not a magic color. Okay, that's step 1.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's something to do with, like, counters. We don't have counters that count up, right? In Magic?
Oh.
Do we?
No, we have to. Yeah, there's definitely like there's gotta be.
We like add counters.
I can't think of a card off the top of my name.
Like loyalty,
but there's gotta be.
Do we? I don't know.
I think
like we don't have counters that track for different players, and like you don't control other players' counters.
I mean, it is weird. It is a weird card, but it feels to me like other than the pink giant teddy bear, which obviously they could have changed that to another color, even though it would make it slightly less funny, I guess. But it feels like a card that you could play in a tournament. I don't know why you'd want to play in a tournament, but I could imagine this showing up in a Commander game and being just fine.
Yeah. Like outside of like the pink thing, like everything else is fine.
Yeah. Is this a fun card? I don't know. Would you play this?
I mean, I think it's a bad card. Like so I guess you could build around it and maybe that's how you get the advantage, but it's another one of those cards where like you're the one that's spending the card, you're the one that's spending the mana, and then theoretically everyone gets advantage out of it because any player can get the token if they get up to 5 counters first and then it resets. So I don't know why you'd put this card in your deck other than just playing it for fun, or if you're, I guess, some sort of like storm deck, like you play this and you're trying to storm off and you make a bunch of 5/5s all in the same turn and give them haste or something. So I don't think it's especially good, but it's okay.
I'd rather have like 40 goblin tokens or like 2 teddy bears.
But seriously, Richard, what would be funnier than like winning in Legacy with giant pink teddy bear storm? Like that's just a hilarious deck name. Like I wish it was tournament legal just for that, so I could do it for an against the odds deck or something, because it has to look really hilarious. Goblins are so 2015. Pink teddy bears. They're the new goblins.
All right. Let's talk
way
about
cooler to look at.
cards that you can play in the next Legacy tournament. Okay. So these are Eternal Legal. They either have no stamp. So if they have no stamp, that means they're Eternal Legal, or they have the regular oval stamp. Okay. So Saw in half. 2 in a black.
So
instant at rare. Destroy target creature. If that creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, except their base power is half that creature's power, and their base toughness is half that creature's toughness. Round up each time.
I love this card. This card is so sweet. This is a card that I will play in a lot of commander decks. So it's obviously, when you first read it, you think, oh, why would I ever want to cast this on my opponent's stuff? It's a horrible removal spell. And that is true. You don't really want to cast it on your opponent's stuff. It is a horrible removal spell. The trick is to use it on your creatures. Like, you're playing commander, you play your Muldrifter, you draw 2 cards, then you kill it with this, you get 2 more Muldrifters, you draw 4 more cards. So I think, or like Solemn, like killing your own Solemn. Sure, you don't care that your Solemns are smaller. It's not about attacking and blocking with a Solemn, but you get 2 more lands out of your deck. When they die, you're going to draw 2 more cards. So I actually think this has potential to be really good in commander. Like, I would play this, and maybe it's the decks I play. I just love those value-y, dirtily Pandermonicon style decks. But in that style of deck, if you got a decent amount of creatures with ETBs or death triggers, this actually seems really powerful.
Yeah. Or like any ETBs, dice triggers, stuff like that. You get more copies of it. I mean, I don't hate that at all, actually. And or if you want to like duplicate your Blood Artist, so you have more pings to deal out.
Yeah. If you're hitting creatures that care about having power and toughness and attacking, it gets a lot worse. You don't want to use it to get your Voltron-y style threats, but with things that have abilities that work based on other things, I think this card is actually really powerful. I also saw someone mention Wormcoil. Wormcoil seems pretty insane with this. Kill the Wormcoil, get the tokens, get 2 more Wormcoils, those die, you get the tokens. So I think that a lot of commander players will play this.
This feels pretty stapley to me. The problem is we just did our spot removal tier list. There's a lot of good spot removal, right? And you're competing in that slot, but like this can double up for like so much value. Like hitting a Wormcoil with this is like jackpot, and like that's not that hard to do. And this does stop you from like dying. Like if someone's attacking you with something, like you can't actually use it as removal, and that will like fade that attack. So I think this is actually a pretty good card.
Are there any specific commanders this works really well with? I'm trying to think, like, what is the... there's got to be some synergy with a commander somewhere. The problem is your commanders are all legendary, so getting 2 of them isn't really helpful. I guess it's a way you can keep your commander on the battlefield through, like, a removal spell. Your opponent targets your commander, and you target with this, and you get the token copies, and you still have your commander's effects on the battlefield. But I don't know. I don't think it really competes for a removal slot, though. I would consider this more of just, like, a synergy card. I think if you're building your commander decks, I would not go, like, cutting all my removal spells to play Saw in half, because I think if you're targeting your opponent's stuff, you got to be really desperate. It's got to be like, I'm literally dying on this attack type desperate, because you're giving your opponent 2 of the things that, you know, are theoretically killing you. So I don't think you even want to think about this card as a removal spell. I think that's like the 1% of the time where things are going really wrong and you're super about to die, then you can kill your opponent's stuff. But I think you're playing this like 99% of the way to kill your own stuff.
I'm playing it 99% by removal slots. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'm cutting that like last removal for this, right? Like all I need to do is just fade your attack, untap, and wrath, right? Like I don't. This works really well doubling season. Like there's a lot of just random synergies, right? Like imagine you had a doubling season, right? You would actually get like double the tokens. You get 4 ETBs. Like this thing is just
kill my own Kakusho.
Oh yeah, you can take advantage of the legend ruling with Kakusho. That actually sounds really sweet. I like that.
All right, the last Eternal card is the Space Family Goblinson. 2 red and a green, 4 mana value. It's a 1/1 legendary creature, Goblin Guest at uncommon. The Space Family Goblinson has trample as long as you've rolled 3 or more dice this turn. When you roll a die, put a +1/+1 counter on the Space Family Goblinson.
That's it's pretty that's pretty high mana cost, but I guess I do enjoy the artwork. It's pretty cute.
I mean, I feel like this is probably sweet for some sort of die rolling deck, and it is a legend, which is worth mentioning. Like, you can build around this if you want to as your commander. It is pretty slow, but there are cards that let you roll quite a few dice. We just got a ton of support in Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. So if you do build around this and play all the die rolling cards, this could get pretty big. I imagine you playing some sort of like Voltron dice rolling type deck with this card. Also weird that Guest is a creature type. I think this is the first, and this is not an Acorn card. This is a real card. So I'm pretty sure this is the first Guest in Magic. So I guess Guest Tribal incoming. More fun on Guest.
Oh my god.
This is literally a boomer card. So I had to look up Space Family Robinson. Okay, that's the reference.
It's Swiss Family Robinson, right?
Yeah.
My parents made me watch that movie a million times.
1962 was 1962 to 1982. They published 59 issues. What was the? I wasn't
even close to being alive at that time.
It's like literally a boomer reference, right? Like actually. So yeah, like interesting. All right, so those are all the new cards. What do you guys make of this set? Like, are you excited for this, that they've added the ability to play these cards in Commander? What do you think of the Acorn stamp?
I like that you can play the cards, some of them, but I think the system is a little confusing. I think instead of Acorn, they should have just left the cards silver bordered that we couldn't play with. And then like everything else can just be black bordered. And that makes it a little bit easier, but because now I'm looking for a small Acorn, it's a little bit more confusing. Otherwise, it does, the fact that now that there are cards that I can actually play, it does add a lot more interest for me, at least when the set drops, right? Because normally I just skip over the unsets because they don't matter to me. I don't even read the cards. I don't even pay attention to them. I might play a draft with friends, and that's even then, right? But now that we have things that I can actually play with, I care a lot more. And also, I know we mentioned it, but like, holy wow, the shock lands are cool. The space lands are cool. So the artwork on these lands are absolutely amazing. So I definitely want the orbital space lands. The shock lands are like just, okay, I don't think I need the breeding pool, but I do want the watery grave, the Grixis color ones. Those are so cool. I mean, before, like, it almost was like you had to like go out of your way to get these cards like altered, you know, to like look Star Wars-y, but some of these just look like they're straight up just Star Wars. Right, like Steam Vents kind of looks like the planet where Anakin becomes or like loses his limbs to like Obi-Wan. And if anyone tries to yell at us for a spoiler alert, I think you've got like 15 years. So I at this point your buffer window.
Come on, Chris. I was on episode 2. What are you doing?
Oh, I was working my way there.
Isn't Sacred Foundry like the Death Star blowing up? That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah,
it kind of looks like
it
looks like
I see the Star Wars vibe.
But with a spaceship.
Yes. Yeah. Space damnation.
It's like outside of a black hole, right? And like Overgrown Tomb is just literally a broken down spaceship. And you know, like all of these look amazing, right? So I kind of love that. Like I'm in love with these lands. And like Hollowed Fountain just straight up looks like, you know, they're on like either Hoth or something like that. And then obviously the space planets, the basics are just, oh my god, these are so gorgeous.
Stomping Ground is Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Blood Crypt looks like a blood moon. I don't.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool art.
It's Blood Sun.
Yep.
The lands do look really good. I have super mixed feelings about this set. So on one hand, I know why they're doing this. They're doing it for just what Krim said. Like, he's interested in the set now when normally he would skip it over. I think the same is true of me. Normally with unsets, I like going through the spoilers. I like reading over the jokes one time, but then I never buy it. I never play with it. So adding real tournament legal cards suddenly makes this a set that I have to pay attention to, because maybe I want to play a card in Legacy. Maybe I'm going to put it in my Commander deck. I already saw that with Saw in Half being a card that I'm definitely really interested in playing in Commander. So I think that from that perspective, it does make the set relevant to a wider audience. Like, more people are going to care about this unset because some percentage of people are like me and Crim that just check out of unsets because they're not legal anywhere. On the other hand, oh my goodness, this Acorn system it's absolutely horrible. Like, that is, it's ridiculous. I don't think we want to use this little tiny hologram that I never pay attention to. I don't know anyone who pays attention to the hologram. It's just kind of there. Like, after you look at a lot of Magic cards, you don't even see the hologram anymore. It just kind of like, blends into the background. I don't think you want that little tiny hologram to be what determines whether a card is legal to play in competitive formats or not. I wish they could have kept with the silver border. I guess maybe there's printing issues where with how they do the sheet printing, you can't have different borders on the same sheet or something. So maybe there's printing issues I'm not aware of, but I still think you gotta have something that's a little bit more in your face. Like in the past when we've had not legal cards and legal cards in the same set, stuff like Masterpieces or Strixhaven Mystical Archives, the cards that were not legal in Standard looked really different. If you open a Godless Shrine or you open a Strixhaven Brainstorm or whatever, it looks way different than everything else in the pack, and you're gonna immediately know something's up, something's different, and you're gonna have to figure out, can I actually play this card? The hologram just is not obvious enough. So I think we're gonna have a lot of issues with legality with these cards, people not knowing whether or not they can play a card, because other than that little hologram, they look exactly the same. And we already see the confusion with Wizards spoiling an Acorn card with the non-Acorn hologram for the water gun balloon game promo. So yeah, I know why they did it, but I don't really think the solution to their problem of wanting more people to care about unsets was an especially elegant or good one.
Someone needs to let their pet project die, and I think that someone is Morrow, because he loves unsets. They don't sell, right? Yes, there's some percentage of players that play them, but they just do not stand up to a normal master set or a normal standard expansion set. And we know this, right? Time and time again, they have to put a gimmick in to get people to buy them, right? It started as full art lands. Then it was okay, we'll have to add shock lands, right? And then now they're okay, we'll just make some cards eternal playable. But this hollow stamp thing is terrible. Even in our internal chat, we had this discussion what is legal, what is not legal, why is it like this, and why is Wizards confused themselves? And can you imagine Secret Lair? What if they Secret Lair this thing? Where are you gonna put the Acorn? Right?
Yeah.
It's just so confusing. And is it worth it? Is it worth it to make a pink teddy bear? Is it worth it for a artifact creature in its art? What is the point? And even if you wanted the chase commander cards, you're buying half a pack or something, right? You're gonna open a pack and a majority of it is silver bordered cards, Acorn cards that you're not going to play. So you're going to end up paying more for this, right? They should have just kept it Acorn. And if people don't buy it, then just don't make the product. Why do they have to jam in these staples into there so that we have to buy cards we don't want, right? I thought this was this product's not for you year, right? Why don't they just say this product's not for you? If you don't like it, go away, right? This is for Acorn players, right? Why do they need to make legacy players and commander players come in here? And what's going to end up happening is they're going to drive up the price of these boosters, and then the casual people who are supposed to play this won't play it, right? I'm not going to pay full price. If silver bordered was 50 cents a pack, I might play it, right? But at normal pack prices, I'm not playing it, right? And adding in more staples and fancy shocklands and stuff just drives up the price for people who actually just want to play Acorn.
And they have collector boosters this time. Who is going to spend $250 on a collector booster box?
No.
Unfinity.
Etched foil Sacred Foundry or whatever, right?
I'm gonna just straight up buy the singles. There's no way. No. $250 on an unset. That's unreal.
Good one, Grim. Good
Thank
one.
you.
I also wonder if we even need unsets anymore with how normal black border Magic has gotten a lot more unsetty. We have wild creature types. We got a lot of jokes thrown into the cards. We have die rolling. Dice rolling is black border now when it never was before. Squirrels are in black border. A lot of the traditional things that Wizards did in unsets is happening in normal sets now, several times a year. So do we still even need unsets, or do we get enough unset tropes in our normal Magic cards these days? So I almost wonder if, I don't know, if we even need unsets anymore.
It's called Magic Arena, digital only mechanics. Right? Like if you want to experiment with these, like, yeah, just put on Arena, right? Like, it's super easy. You can cost them low. You can get actual data. Like, you can actually see if people are playing with the cards rather than just guessing, you know. Are people buying this because they love playing with like clown art or because they just want shocklands? Like, I don't know. How are you going to tell, right?
I think the other concern with this set is maybe it doesn't sell very well, and then the legal cards can end up getting very expensive. Like the Saw in Half that we were talking about. Let's say that ends up being a Commander staple, but let's say everyone's like, why am I going to spend $100 on a box where most of the cards aren't actually legal to play? I'll just pick up the single. Then the supply of this could actually be pretty low, and the playable cards could actually end up being pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other thoughts on the unset before we move on to our next topic? All right, so I've been thinking a lot recently about the modern ban list. I actually have an article that's going to be coming up in a video this weekend talking about it pretty in depth, but I wanted to ask both of you about it. So here's what I've been thinking. There's a lot of cards. The modern ban list is huge. It's 47 cards, but a lot of those cards have been banned literally forever since the start of the format, or for like a decade now, 2013, 2015. We're talking 5-10 years in the past. And one thing we've seen recently is Modern's a brand new format. We were talking about it last week, where most of Modern these days is cards from the last couple of years, cards from Modern Horizons 2, cards from Ikoria, cards from Throne of Eldraine. That is really what the format is about at this point. So a card that was banned in 2015 or has been banned since the start of the format, I'm not sure it necessarily still needs to be banned. The power level of Modern is so high, and it's so much different today than when Birthing Pod was banned or Splinter Twin was banned. I actually think we need to have a real conversation about maybe unbanning some cards. Like, because some of the cards, when you read them, it's kind of funny these days when you think about Ragavans and Urza Sagas and everything that's going on in Modern. You're like, wait, why? This is banned? Why is this card on the ban list? So what I wanted to do is ask both of you about some cards on the Modern ban list and see what you thought about the possibility of unbanning them. Would it be wise? Would it be unwise? And these are all cards that have been banned for a while. So we're not talking about Okos and Omnath and cards that were just banned in the last year or two. My assumption is if you were just banned, you're probably still going to be broken. You're already competing with the Throne of Eldraine's, original Modern Horizons, a lot of really powerful stuff, and you were too good for the format. So I'm mostly interested in cards that have been banned for a while, and I wanted to get your take on them. So are you down with talking a bit about the Modern ban list?
Oh yeah,
let's go. Free
right,
Death Shaman.
So all right, card number one. I made a list. I made a list of cards that I have been thinking about, and I think there's at least some debate to be had about unbanning them. And I wanted to ask you about them. Card number one, actually a little cheating here. It's actually 5 cards, and those are the original artifact lands. So if you're not familiar with these cards, there's one of each color. They come into play tapped. They're artifacts. They tap to add their color of mana. That's it. It's just a basic plains or island, whatever, that is actually an artifact. We've got a bunch of other artifact lands recently. We got the dual land cycle in Modern Horizons that are indestructible and come into play tapped. We got Treasure Vault. We have Darksteel Citadel. Do you think that the original artifact lands are they still too good for Modern?
Yes.
Wait, what do they even do?
like
what
just,
is the
they're
combo?
just artifacts.
But like, it powers up your cranial plating. Is that what we're afraid of, or is there like
your Urza Sagas tokens,
Ravager, cranial plating, yeah, stuff like that.
Your Saga token. No.
Token. I mean, they come into play tapped. Are you willing to do this?
What? No.
The old ones come into play untapped.
Oh, they're untapped. Yeah, they are monocolored.
Yeah, they are destructible, unlike all the other artifact lands. So you can just blow them up, or you can get got by a Karn or a Ancient Grudge or whatever. Unlike the more recent ones that they printed that are all indestructible. I think that balances them to some extent. Like there's a lot of artifact hate. Do you really want to risk playing an artifact land that turns on your opponent's Nature's Claim as a sinkhole or whatever? There is risk, at least.
I think they've already accepted that. I mean, like playing an artifact in Modern, you accept that the risk is going to happen, right? So, but like the upsides are just absolutely wild, right? Like for an artifact deck, which I guess is like cool if you're an artifact lover and whatnot. But I don't know. Anything that powers up an Urza Saga doesn't exactly make me happy.
I mean, so Hammer Time is the most played deck. I think when the artifact lands are banned, people are like Affinity this, Affinity that. Like people don't even play Affinity anymore. I actually think it's fine. Like, yes, they'll get more powerful, but is it really the end of the world? Like, you know, you're still scared of their Urza Saga, right? Like, you're not scared of their artifact land. Like, their tokens are slightly bigger. Your cranial plating hits a little harder. I think it's actually fine. And I think I agree with Seth that there's a lot of artifact hate nowadays, and you are opening yourself up to that, and you're one Shatterstorm away from like losing it all, right? So
no one plays Shatterstorm though.
I would if everyone was playing artifact lands. Yes, right.
I'm kind of in the middle, honestly. Like, I think there's arguments on both sides, which we're kind of hearing here. Like, I do worry a little bit about, like, is Arcbound Ravager going to be way too good or whatever? But those decks are pretty far down in the meta. Like, Hardened Scales and Affinity are, like, tier 3, tier 2.5 right now. So even if they do get better, maybe they're just like tier 2 and that's perfectly fine. Maybe that's actually a good thing. So I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see what would happen. I'm definitely not as scared of them as I used to be. I think the format's so much more powerful these days. There's no Mox Opal to power up Affinity that I think that if there was ever a time to talk about unbanning them, it's probably now in Modern Horizons 2 Modern. But we got a big list. Let's move on to the next card. This one. This is an old school one. Blazing Shoal. Blazing Shoal. You can exile a red card from your hand to cast it for free, and you give a creature plus X plus 0, where X is the mana cost of the card that you exile. It's part of like the disrupting Shoal cycle. This is a card that was banned after the first Modern Pro Tour because people are playing it in Infect. The original Infect deck was full of Progenituses, Dragon Storms, and the idea was you play an Infect threat and you hope you draw a Progenitus that you can never cast, and then you hope you can exile the Progenitus, targeting the Infect threat with your Blazing Shoal and one-shot someone. Is this still scary in 2021? Are we worried about Progenesis, Dragonstorm, Infect decks taking over the format? Is there something else this card can do? What do you think about Blazing Shoal?
I think this is fine. And if there's an Infect deck that can punish like non-interactive decks and kill them like on turn 2, that's amazing.
I don't know that you would play this card. Like, I think Infect can kill you with 2 cards today already, right? Like, scale up and something like you're putting like Progenituses in your deck to, yeah, I don't know. I think you might actually be making your deck worse. Like, I agree with Crypto. I don't think it's that scary, right? Like, maybe
like
it's
this is fine.
It's a side grade. Maybe it's a slight improvement, but like, Infect can kill you with 2 cards today, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I died on turn 2 with 2
I
Infects.
guess it's free though, right? So you can hold up double Blossoming Defense while you fire off your Blazing Shoal though, right? I guess that's
but
the
you
difference.
can't
that's true.
Cast this on your best Infect threat for Phyrexian Crusader.
Oh, that protection from Blazing Shoal. I mean, I really think that Infect would be worse with Blazing Shoal. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I hear play 4 Progenituses and 4 Dragonstorms in your Infect deck, my first thought is just cast a scale up. Like, we have so many good pump spells today. Do you really need to fill your deck with stuff you can't cast? So I don't know. Maybe prowess is what makes it scary. Maybe just like pitching a Fury or something in your Monastery Swiftspear prowess deck or Kiln Fiend deck. Like, maybe that's what makes it broken, but I don't know. This card doesn't scare me very much, and I'm someone who's very scared of free spells. All right, next up, we got a good one. Deathrite Shaman. Deathrite Shaman banned back in 2015 because people were using it in their Jund deck to ramp into their Putrefies or whatever a turn earlier. Richard, you're the Jund master. Should we free Deathrite?
I don't know. So Deathrite is interesting, right? It's ramp. It also hits on Lurrus decks, right? You can now exile things out of the graveyard as well. It's such a fair card though, right? Like, are we worried about fair? Like, everyone's just playing Lurrus decks, right? And you will play a Lurrus Deathrite Shaman deck. You're not ramping into Lilianas and Hunt Masters or anything anymore, right? So is this card actually good? I don't know. Or is it like another Jace the Mind Sculptor where it's like very annoying in mid-range mirrors, but other than that, it does kind of nothing.
This card is very good. This card is very good. What? With fetch lands, all of that. Like,
it's
like,
good
oh.
in certain matches, right? But there are certain matches where like this does nothing. You're gonna get killed by a Colossus Hammer anyway, right? Like so. I don't know. This
I mean,
one is
okay,
close.
you might have named the one matchup where it doesn't matter, but I feel like if you play a creature at all against that deck, then Hammer Time doesn't care about it anyways, right? So like that one isn't exactly where it's going to shine. It's going to shine everywhere else, though.
I mean, it blocks
and you know,
monkey.
okay?
Is that the main
that's
role?
true.
Like, would you rather turn one Deathrite or turn one Monkey? That's the question.
Turn one Deathrite, then dash in Monkey next turn.
No, I mean, if you had a choice of playing two cards, you're playing Jund or something, right? You had the choice. I think you would
Ragavan.
You would Monkey, right?
Ragavan. Yeah, 100%
I would Monkey.
Ragavan.
So
yeah.
is Deathrite, you're just jumping
but
with the
comparing
Deathrite now, right?
Deathrite to Monkey is not exactly, that's not exactly the same. Monkey is kind of absurd, right? So falling a little short of absurd still means you're pretty good.
I actually feel pretty strongly that we should unban this card now. Like, here's my argument. It was banned back in 2015. In 2015, what was the next best one drop in Modern? Grim Lavamancer? Something like a Goblin Guide. Like, this was the 10 out of 10 one drop in a world where the next best one drop was a 5 out of 10 or something. Now we got Ragavan, we got Esper Sentinel, we got Dragon Rage Channeler, we got Monastery Swiftspear. There's a million busted one drops these days, and Deathrite, it doesn't snowball into a win like Ragavan. Like, sure, like if the game goes 10 turns, it's probably, and this sticks on the battlefield somehow, it's probably gonna win you the game like very, very slowly as you exile away the graveyard. But I actually think this would just be another good one drop in Modern. I don't think it would be broken. I don't think it would be bannable. I think it would just be like on par with the Ragavans and Dragon Rage Channelers of the world. And I can even see an argument it's going to be the hero of the format because it lets you hate on the Lurrus decks. It lets you hate on the Graveyard against Murktide decks or Dragon Rage Channeler decks. So I can almost see an argument that maybe this would just be like the good guy of the one drops in the format because it's really slow and fair.
It's going to be put in the same deck that you just mentioned, Ragavan and Dragon. So now they'll like the idea of a 2-drop is just a meme in itself, right? Because now every card will just be 1 mana, and then you have Lurrus as the top of the curve, and you'll just reoccur a bunch of 1 mana, and like Tarmogoyf is gone, that it'll actually be gone along with everything else.
Okay, how about this, Grim? We unban Deathrite Shaman, but then to even out, we unban Mental Misstep.
Mental Misstep would have to actually be unbanned. It would actually have to be
unban Mental Misstep because every deck starts at 56 cards. Right? Yeah. And then you just get to Mental Misstep Wars, and that's like, what's the point of, like, you just reduced everyone's deck by 4 cards.
3 fairy says hello, you win the game.
Yeah, Mental Misstep is one of those cards that if you never saw it in action and you just read it over, you're like, wow, this would be great in Modern. Like, this stops the monkey. Like, this, why wouldn't we want this in the format? But then if you actually go back and like watch a Legacy match from when it was legal, oh my god, it really somehow, this 1 mana Phyrexian mana spell, it really just warps the format. And just like Richard said, it really is like, first people play Mental Misstep to stop the Ragavans, and then people play Mental Missteps to stop their opponent's Mental Missteps. And then some people just like stop playing one drops altogether to try to get around the Mental Missteps. And it really does like just warp the entire format around it. So yeah, it would probably be a bad idea. Although it would be nice to be able to counter Ragavan in every deck.
Yeah, like I think Mental Misstep at this point, if we're in the world of unbanning Deathrite Shaman, we're unbanning Mental Misstep. You let that bad boy into the format, okay?
Right? Because I'll play my Deathrite Shaman backed by 4 Mental Missteps against your 4 Mental Missteps. So I'll get my Deathrite Shaman either way, right?
Unless I have a removal spell to back up that.
As long as it's not a Fatal Push or an Unholy Heat, because that's Mental Missteps.
Oh, but that'll be fine. It'll be fun because then every little interaction, if the whole mana, like the whole format's gonna be 1 mana, then every game will just be highly interactive. And by turn 2, everyone will be spent because they've used every card in their hand.
Can you imagine
get your Chalice of the Voids now?
Man, that life, you lose life, you like just like out-tempoed your opponent. I was like, oh, so good.
All right, let's move on to another one drop. Well, 1 mana play, and that is Glimpse of Nature. Glimpse of Nature, 1 green mana. Whenever you play a creature spell this turn, you get to draw a card. Has never been legal in Modern. Was on the initial Modern ban list because people were afraid of its power in like Extended Elves or Standard Elves back in 2008 or whatever. What do you think of the possibility of unbanning Glimpse of Nature in Modern?
Please let me just see an elf deck. That would be very, very fine. Like it. I don't think this card matters.
Can we play, like, what is Nettle Sentinel legal? Is the,
Nettle?
Yeah.
So you do have those elf volley combo pieces, Heritage Druid.
To make mana?
Yep.
Okay.
Hermit
So you
Druid.
would be able to play Elf Ball.
You can play Elf Ball. Would it be good?
I mean, Elves is like tier 3 right now, probably, if that. Like, Elves is pretty
Glimpse
low in the
bumps
meta.
it up,
so
though, to tier 2.
Glimpse would definitely improve it. But I think maybe that's another one where maybe it's a good thing if Elves was a little better, because Elves are just like so bad right now.
Give me the Glimpse.
And we got multiple 2-mana versions, Rite of Harmony, Beck Call, and none of those have, other than the window where Brain in the Jar was putting Beck Call into play, like none of those have ever shown up in Modern. So we know that effect's not good enough at 2 mana. I say try it. This is one I actually mentioned on Twitter and people were talking about. And the one thing I hadn't thought of that is maybe the most convincing argument for not unbanning it is if there is a Glimpse deck, they takes very long terms because you play Glimpse and then you try to make a bunch of mana and try to draw through your entire deck. And a lot of people are like, it's probably fine on power level, but I just do not want to play against my opponents taking like 20 minute Glimpse of Nature turns. So I want to ban for that reason.
No. You run out of steam quite fast when you Glimpse, right? Either you drew more elves or you didn't, right? And it's not like eggs. So I don't know. I don't buy that argument, but I played against elf ball decks before, and I think they're fine. I actually don't think it'd be too strong, but they should try it. This one's close.
Yeah, I think it could be worth trying. Let's move on to another green card. Get the green cards out of the way. Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith, 1 and X, tutors out a green creature from your library with mana cost of X, and it shuffles back into your library. Traditionally scary because you have flexibility. You can get a Dryad Arbor on turn 1, so you get a Llanowar Elves later, you can get a Primeval Titan or whatever. Do you think this would be a positive that would maybe let something like Legacy Maverick develop in Modern, where you get this fun creature toolbox deck? Or do you think it's just going to be miserable, everyone getting Primeval Titans and making Amulet Titan even more miserable and broken?
The latter. It's going to be way more miserable. Titans are just going to go flying everywhere. Green decks doing green things already is annoying, but then this will just only, like, do we need to make green better? I guess is my question. Like, why are we making green better?
Because green is not that good.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It actually isn't that good in Modern. Like, it's actually pretty far down the meta. Like, all the good stuff has been banned, right? The Oko, the Uros,
darn right
the Okos,
they have.
they're all gone, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't feel bad about it one bit. I don't want to see green get good. Because when green gets good...
You can Green Sun Zenith a Primeval Titan, and you can Green Sun Zenith basically like the company decks, essentially, right? Like that'd be another home for them. Would it be bad? I don't actually know. Like,
yes.
Titan is what scares me. I think like the company decks would be perfectly fine. I don't think there's any like most of the
company decks worse though. It's like a faster combo than a Titan, right?
But you can only get green creatures. So a lot of the common combos, like you can't get Heliad Walking Ballista, you can't get Vizier Remedies to go with your Devoted Druid. So a lot of the most popular creature combos, this just doesn't get your combo pieces.
But Titan, that is the only thing I care about.
I kind of, here's what I would like to see happen. I'd like to see us unban Green Sun Zenith, because I really would love to have like a creature toolbox deck in Modern. I think that would be sweet. Like if you look at Legacy Maverick, that's like, oh, I'll get my Knight of the Reliquary, I get my Gaddock Teeg or whatever, my Thragtusk.
Seth, like, are you trying to put Siege Rhinos into play, Seth?
Yes, I'm going to get my Siege Rhino like it's 2015 again. But I think that would be sweet. I do think it would just break Amulet Titan though. I almost hope they unban it, realize that it breaks Primeval Titan, and then just unban Primeval, or just ban Primeval Titan. I think I'd rather have Primeval Titan ban and Green Sun Zenith legal than vice versa, honestly.
Green Sun Zenith is really good though. Like, because it acts as 1 mana ramp, right? Like you ramp up Dryad Arbor or you ramp up a Birds and it finishes your combo for you. So like,
Sweet Richard. You know that's already going to happen next set for 1 mana, right? Green Sun is going to like.
I'm more worried about
you should already expect
basically
that.
the birthing pod decks. Is that a concern? Like basically the company decks and stuff like that. Titans, just ban a Titan.
Titans are the ones that are more likely to happen,
you can ban
right?
Titan and kill that deck, right? Whereas you can't. Like the whole reason this and Birthing Pod were banned is like we can't just keep banning every green card ever printed as much as Crim would like. So they banned that part of it, right? But for Titan, you can just ban Titan and that deck is done, right? But if you unleash Green Sun Zenith, will you just keep banning every value green creature they ever make ever again, right? That's the question.
I didn't have this one on the list, but since you mention it, what about Birthing Pod? I've seen Birthing Pod be a card people have been talking about, kind of similar to Green Sun Zenith as a green card that lets you tutor creatures out of your deck. Do you think we can unban Birthing Pod today?
Yes. Everything has artifact removal attached to it, like we had mentioned earlier. So now you can just blow it up pretty easily.
Slow.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem very slow. You're probably dead to a Ragavan by the time you activate it. It does get got by Karn and Artifact Hate and
the Birthing Pod, sacking the monkey to go off the chain, right? You gotta think of how you use these all together.
Sack the monkey to get what? If the whole in unban world that we just mentioned, everything is 1 mana.
You're like, I'm good with the monkey.
Your opponent a favor.
I'll just keep it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep the treasure.
All right, Crim, this one's for you. Ponder and Preordain, 2 blue cantrips that have been banned since very early in Modern. The reason for the banning, according to Wizards, is they felt like it powered up combo too much. Storm decks having the cheap cantrips to find their pieces. Are we at a point now where these cards, at least one of them, I don't know if you'd want to unleash both of them at once, but do you think we could unban one of these blue cantrips?
Not Ponder. I do not think we can unban Ponder. Really? I think we can we can try Preordain, maybe. But like, yeah, like I actually still think that these might be a little too powerful. Not Preordain, but Ponder is just too good.
Or what decks? Like Storm decks?
For everything.
Just like in Murktide
for everything
decks?
Yeah, Murktide Regent decks will gladly play some Ponders, right? Like, and the last thing we need is for them to get better. And like the 1 mana, would it replace the new Izzet spell, cantrip spell?
I mean, people play Serum Visions.
I don't
just straight up throw that garbage out.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Never mind. They have Serum Visions. If they play Serum Visions, that goes forever. But Serum Visions will never get played again. But I do think that Ponder is way too good.
Consider's your next cut. You could cut as well. Oh, not. Yeah, Consider.
I think Consider, honestly, in a lot of the decks that play it, would probably be better than Preordain. That probably sounds crazy, but I think like dumping a card in the graveyard with Murktide and Dragon Rage Channeler is actually like really, really powerful. So I don't know if like Murktide would actually cut Consider. It might play some Preordains with Consider, but I think Consider is actually really good.
But Ponder. Like I'm wondering.
Oh, Ponder, yeah. Ponder is kind of a non-starter for me. I think if we want to try a blue cantrip in Modern, I would say try unbanning Preordain and see what happens. I don't think you want to start with Ponder because Ponder is definitely the better of the two. I think the argument in favor of unbanning it is Serum Visions doesn't see much play anymore. Even the Murktide decks, a lot of them are only playing like 2 copies. And then the other homes are like the combo decks that Wizards was worried about. But like Storm, Ad Nauseam, Jeskai Ascendancy, these are all like tier 3 decks at the moment. I never play against those. Very, very rarely do I play against those decks. So sure, a slightly better cantrip would improve like Storm or Ad Nauseam. But I feel like they maybe are low enough in the meta right now that a little improvement might be fine. Like that might actually not be a harmful thing to Modern.
I think they should bring both of these back, and like if Storm is a problem, just ban Storm, right? Like I think you need this. Like, if someone monkeys, right, you need to take the monkey hit and then ponder into your answer to remove the monkey, right? That is your counterplay, right? Like, so I think having these like strong cantrip spells are good, and if Storm is too good, then just hit a Storm card. But we don't have any good cantrips in Modern.
That is true. I would like to see us try at least one of them. Well, speaking of dealing with Monkey, how about a card that directly deals with Monkey, Punishing Fire? When I read this one on the ban list, it kind of makes me laugh. Punishing Fire, 2 mana shock, except if your opponent gains life, you can pay 1 red mana and return it to your hand. It combos with Grove of the Burn Willows, which can force your opponent to gain life, to give you every turn for the low cost of 3 mana and giving your opponent a life 2 damage. A 3 mana repeatable shock. It's modern. It's a 3 mana repeatable shot. Is that, I'm dead by the time I activate this a single time. Is this actually a thing to worry about? So the reason it's banned is it can lock small.
It's 2 mana, right?
Well, you have to.
Well, you got to pay 1 to get it back to your hand,
Right.
and then 2 to cast it. So it can lock small creature decks out of the game, which was Wizards' original justification. I think they name dropped Merfolk, worried that the Lord of Atlantis would not be able to keep up with Punishing Fire
We need
around
to ban a lot more things for that to be really good again.
We got a ways to go to make Merfolk good. But what do you think? Is this a scary card because it's repeatable, or is it a laughable card because it's 3 mana for a shock?
It's definitely laughable, I think, at this point now. I don't see the issue in it, right? Like, yeah, sure, maybe the exact little creature decks now start also playing it, but whatever. Like, it's modern. I'm not surprised by this card at all. It actually does not seem like even that good.
I think it's too good. I mean, it's not too good in apps. Like, if you so where would you put this? You put this in Jund, right? You play Punishing Jund, and you're not going to win any more games against like combo decks or Titans, but you basically lock out every single small creature deck because like all you need is like 2 cards, right? And you know, you can even pitch to Liliana and stuff like that if you're even playing Liliana, but you can just lock out like a burn deck or something, right? You kill their Swift Spear, you kill their Goblin Guy, you just don't waste any cards. So that is the problem with this card. I think in the meta sense, it's okay. Like, Jund's not going to be too good, but you just really punish, like, anything
lives up to the name.
A 1-drop.
I mean,
it is literally Punishing Fire.
Yeah.
I tend to lean towards it being okay, just because when I think of modern, I'm thinking of, like, I'm dying to Primeval Titan on turn 3. I'm getting hit by Colossus Hammer on turn 2. I have a 8/8 Murktide staring me down on turn 3. Like, what am I going to do with a Punishing Fire? But I do think what you're saying does make sense, Richard. Like,
you guarantee no one will play a 1-drop elf ever again, right? Because their whole deck is like removed by this 1 card.
Yeah, that is a concern, is that there are certain decks where this would just probably push them out of the meta, and I guess that might end up being a negative.
It does answer Monkey though really slowly.
That deals with Luris too, which is nice, but all right, next up, we got to get through a couple more, and we're getting short on time, but these are good ones that we got to get to. Next up, Splinter Twin, the card that there's been the most conversation about. Free twin, unbanned twin. Is it time to finally make it happen?
It's been so long since I even thought about Splinter Twin, but you know what? Maybe because of the deck and the way that it played, I think that it's totally fine if it got unbanned, but I still want to see it banned.
What do you think, Richard?
Is it too good? Is the deck going to be tier 1? And if it is tier 1, is that too bad? This stifles
creativity and deck diversity comment though. Does that even hold up anymore?
Like, I think, I don't know. Because like, so what do you do, right? You just like, okay, what would you do today? You would play Monkey, okay? And then you would hit them. And if they have no interaction, you would Splinter Twin them right there, like the next turn.
Splinter Twin the monkey. Get 2 monkeys.
like the annoying thing is like you play Monkey, you mana leak whatever they play, and then you twin, right? And then that's it. That's the game, right? Maybe it is too strong. Maybe it was okay before Monkey was a thing, but now Monkey's in the deck. So now it's like too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the combo itself is fine. Like, there's so many more answers today. When this was banned, I actually looked it up. Jund literally was playing Putrefy. Like, Putrefy in a modern deck, like a top tier deck. Now every deck has like 1 mana ways to kill this. Unholy Heats and Fatal Pushes. Those cards didn't exist. Solitudes back when Splinter Twin was a thing. So I think the actual combo perfectly fine for Modern. My concern is the Izzet shell is just busted. Like, I think you could take Izzet Murktide, drop most of the creatures, replace it with the Twin package, and it would just immediately be a top tier deck. Not because Twin is so good, but because Expressive Iteration, Unholy Heat, Archmage's Charm, Force Negation, Consider, like all the stuff around it is just so strong. So that's what makes me worry about the power level of Twin. Not that Twin is too powerful, just that Izzet is so powerful. It has just such a ready-built home to slot into.
Well, Force of Negation is a big problem too, right? Because now they can just back up their Twin combo.
Well, like, not on their
Force
turn.
Negation's only free on your opponent's turn, so it doesn't actually back it up.
That's the time you want to kill the creature, though, right? When they're tapped low, right?
Yeah, if you're trying to
now
kill
you're gonna wait
Misstep.
for them. Yeah, now you gotta wait for their turn in which they've untapped their mana and can fully protect the thing now, right?
Yeah,
but Solitude.
I'm really on the fence.
But Solitude pants the idea of even trying to play Splinter Twin.
I guess that's true. We have the free removal too.
And Force of Negation is an answer to Twin itself. Like, you can Force of Negation the Twin coming down on the creature.
Yeah.
That's just for the mirror match.
All right, one more card, and this one I got to ask you about, Richard, because you're one of our legacy experts and also our equipment expert. Umazawa's Jitter, never been legal in the Modern format. We're going back to Kamigawa. Is it time for the most infamous card from original Kamigawa to get some run in Modern?
Oh, this card is never safe.
Really?
Like, I think it's the same thing as Punishing Fire, right? Like, okay, like half the time you'll just do literally nothing and it's like a waste. You sideboard this thing out, right? Like, it does nothing for your matchup. The other half of the time, the game is unplayable for the other person, right? If you're playing any creature deck, right, and you have a Jitter, you're gonna win, right? It's a must remove on the spot. You can't chump block. You can't do anything, right? As soon as you're into combat, like, it's getting counters. So I think it's too strong. Like, either it does nothing or it totally wrecks the other side, and I don't think that's good.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, like creature matchups will. Well, there won't be creature matchups if GT exists.
Well, there is the lure mirrors, right? When we play monkeys
boy.
against each other, right? Whoever has the GT is going to win.
Or when you hit your opponent's GT off your monkey.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I do think that this card, this one to me is more problematic and more punishing than actual Punishing Fire.
Yeah, it is way more.
Like, this card just means that you actually will never have a creature, right? Like, Punishing Fire is still, I gotta give you a life, you know, get the card back, and, you know, get around Graveyard Hate, which everything has attached to it now. This, like, yeah, there's a lot of artifact hate, but the counters just sit there. And they can do it whenever. And it's so good. It's so good. And then it's also, like, hilariously funny against burn, because you could gain life, I think, if you wanted. The legend rule doesn't exist anymore, so I can't just play a GT to blow up a GT. And that was what I was doing back when it was in standard. So I don't think this card can exist ever.
Stoneforge scares me. I think that's the problem. Yeah. Like, the fact that you can play this as a one-of in your Stoneforge package and tutor it up consistently, and it wrecks the small creature decks, like, that is a concern. The opportunity cost of playing is just so low in a Stoneforge deck. On the other hand, like, I don't know. When I think about, like, Calder Complete and my opponent playing a Stoneforge, I'm kind of hoping that my opponent tutors up a Jitte and is going to try to, like, play it and equip it and attack with it to get a counter and start doing things, rather than just, like, putting a Calder Complete into play and, like, just wrecking me. So it is kind of slow. But I think...
This is how you can tell Seth has never played, like, a Lawnmower Elf in his life. Like, here's the beauty of the card, right? Like, if your opponent's playing Lawnmower Elf, you take the GT, the game is over for them, right? If they're not playing it, then you take Culture Complete and try to race them before they combo off on you, right? Like, that's the flexibility of Stoneforge.
Yeah, so I think if Stoneforge wasn't in the format, I would lean towards yes. With Stoneforge, it makes me a little nervous.
With Stoneforge, it's a huge definitely not. Without Stoneforge, I think I would still, I still wouldn't want it.
All you would end up is with, like, just degenerate combo decks because no one can play a creature at all, right? Like, you just cannot do it. Like, between Fatal Push and Unholy Heat and, like, people playing Death Shot, like, small creatures have a hard time today. Like, throw a GT in there, like, they're getting nowhere.
All right, so those were the modern ban list cards I wanted to talk about. Definitely let us know if you're watching on YouTube, or tweet at us if you want to. What do you think about these cards? Like I said, I got an article coming up this weekend and a video going through the whole ban list, so check that out. But would definitely love to hear what you think, audience, about all these cards. But anyway, before we wrap it up today, Richard, got a couple fish mail for us?
Yeah, but I have a question for you, Seth. When was the last time we did unbanned modern? What does Splinter Twin versus Jund in 2021 look like?
Ooh, we should.
Have we done it recently? When was the most recent time we've done this?
It's been like a year or two. We did an unbanned twin thing for Go Magic, so maybe we got to try some unbanned modern. That would actually be super fun.
Yeah, I actually curious if you just take the Izzet shell and throw Splinter Twin in there, if it could just run the gauntlet on everything. Because like Monkey and Splinter Twin, we can good with a Ponder in there. It's gonna be so good.
we can do it. Streamer video. Let's do it. That'd be super sweet.
All right. Fish mail time. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail. We'll get to your questions on air. Ganger3. If Wizards printed reverse shock lands, dual lands where your opponents gain life, how much life would the opponent have to gain for them to be balanced?
5.
Oh, God. That was the first number that popped into my head, and that might even be conservative.
I think 5 is acceptable, right? I mean, I'm curious now also, like, with that, does Reign of Gore like get playable?
Ooh.
Like you go Rakdos burn these lands, Reign of Gore.
Maybe it'd have to be your opponent may gain that amount of life or something like that. Maybe you got to give them the option to not overpower Reign of Gore. My concern would be like control decks, combo decks that when they win, they're going to win by so much it doesn't matter. They're not going to win with damage. Then they're just kind of like a free roll. Like if you're trying to beat down with creatures, 5 is probably fine. Like that's actually a drawback. But there's some decks that just don't really care about the opponent's life total, and none of those would be like the best land since the original dual lands, honestly.
I don't know how you would balance it. Like, so I think aggro decks would never play it. You would always just play shocklands, right? But control decks, yeah, they don't care. So they'll pay any amount of, it could be like 20 life, they'll still play it, right? So
no, you gotta. Okay, maybe they'll errata it, but I just want to see a world where Reign of Gore spikes up to like $500 or something like that. Can you just imagine how good that would be? Oh my god.
All right. One more question. John Hardy, Wizards' position is to not acknowledge the secondary market to avoid legal risk. The Secret Lair program began as a B2C alternative / revenue stream. Are Secret Lair prices influenced by secondary market? If so, what are the implications?
Everything Wizards does is influenced by the secondary market. They literally have economists on staff who are trying to figure out the most optimal way to reprint things and print things so Wizards can make the most money possible. There's a misconception here. Basically, Wizards doesn't publicly talk about or acknowledge the secondary market, but that does not mean they do not use the secondary market to inform their decisions. I would argue the secondary market is the very foundation of everything that Wizards does, from pricing to product design to reprints. So yeah, that's a misconception. They just don't talk about it, but they certainly use it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how this legal loophole exists. If you just look at it, clearly they assign value to this, and especially with Secret Lair, they're assigning value to it, right? But in the eyes of secondary price market and stuff, legal things, they're like, nah, we don't know. This is just a mythic, and this is just a rare, right? So I don't know how they dance around this or what they're doing, but yeah, they obviously know what they're doing with collector boosters and master sets and secret lairs and throwing shock lands into all your unsets to sell them. There's clearly a price that they assign to these cards. All right. So that's all the time we have for questions this week. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail. We'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 357 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard, Graham, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have a wonderful week, everyone. And this is a crew signing out.